Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. Before we move into discussion on the bill, I'd like to ask the clerk to report House Committee Substitute 1.
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 4.
Move for its adoption.
Motion is for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Those opposed, nay. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Bullitt.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, we have before us House Bill 4 today. For the last 3 years of my service in this chamber, I have focused on the unemployment issue. And when I began that, it was prior to the COVID. And, of course, we saw unemployment thrust to the forefront during the pandemic, and every one of us in this chamber received calls from our constituents and the issues related to that, and we saw and read all of the issues related to it, from security breaches, a system that the leadership was not prepared for the number of people that would file unemployment benefits. So this has been a real important issue, not only to me, but to the members of this body and to those in state government. As we think about this and we think about what we read recently, and I'll point to the press releases that each of us receive from the governor's office. And if you're like me, and I'm assuming that you would be, you receive quite a few a day. Several weeks ago, we received a press release from the governor talking about the number of new jobs and businesses that were being created in this state, those that were coming here and opening their doors or either expanding. And that's good news for Kentucky. During the special session, we dealt with a bill that will bring about 5,000 jobs to South Central Kentucky. And a sign that a state is growing is when jobs are coming in. But there's more to this equation than just job creation. The bottom line is we need workers in this state. Right now, 47% of the working age population in Kentucky is not working. So we have 53% of our working age population is actively engaged in employment. And we can talk about bringing jobs to our state, and I would encourage us to do that. And as chairman of the Economic Development and Workforce Investment Committee, that's a goal that I have. Let's open Kentucky for business in every corner of the state, in every county of the state, and create jobs for our folks there. But with the lack of adults that are participating in the job market, in the job area, we cannot be known as a state without workers or a state that is short on workers. The bottom line, and anyone will tell you about a company coming to look at locating in Kentucky, those are factors that they look at, is the number of individuals who are willing to participate and work. And those are very strong issues. And they're important deciding factors. We often down here we hear things referred to as tools in the toolbox. Well, that is one of the tools. That's one of the factors that a company looks for. Now, some of the focus in the last 24 hours on this bill has seemed to generate in the line of that this bill, I think, will be, that I'm presenting this as the silver bullet. This will cure everything. This bill will only deal with a small part of the overall problem that's affecting our state right now. And today, this morning, when we were discussing this bill in committee, the question was posed about talking and working with folks about bringing jobs to areas in the state that don't have as many as other areas. And I think that is an important decision, an important discussion that we need to have in this chamber and in the General Assembly and in state government and with business leaders across this state. That is most definitely a discussion that we need to have. And I would welcome that discussion. I'm going to now cover some highlights of the bill. It's been well discussed. A lot of folks have talked to me and asked questions. I've tried to answer all those questions, to the best that I could. So I'm going to cover some of the highlights. One of the first portions of the bill that we added to, and was actually added in the committee sub today, it came at the urging of the gentleman from Graves and the gentleman from Christian 9, was that we definitely guarantee that those individuals that were affected by the tornadoes last December are covered under the emergency tornado unemployment benefits. And we wanted to make sure that those folks didn't fall through the cracks. Those folks somehow weren't left out due to some technical issue that they had no control over. So we've included that in this bill. We also address the seasonal worker issue. And I had folks that came to me and they had concerns about that. And they laid out the case, and it was a very reasonable approach that they had, a very reasonable suggestion. So for individuals who would fall under that seasonal category, who have a definite return date or the prospect for a return date, we cover those. And they don't fall under the guidelines outlined in this bill. A key component and part of this bill is that we maximize the number of weeks based on economic conditions using the unemployment rate. Some folks have referred to that as indexing. That's what it's widely known as. So we're tying the number of benefits to economic conditions. And historically, it is shown that when unemployment is low, jobs are more plentiful, and folks have an easier time finding employment. As the unemployment rate increases, jobs tend to be a little bit lower, fewer to find. So we take factors into consideration of that. There are also factors in this bill that allow for the downturn in the economy. If we have a period of time where our economy is in trouble and folks are needing more time to look, maybe federal benefits kick in, much like we saw during COVID in 2020 and in 2021. There are factors in this bill, House Bill 4, that take care of that. So we've addressed those economic downturns that might come up. Another key component of House Bill 4, and one that some folks came to me and talked about, and I looked at it, I was excited because I thought it answered part of a key factor in developing the workforce in our state. And it encourages folks that have been laid off from their jobs to pursue education. They pursue an education program. If they enroll in that program and they are showing progress and are successful in that, those folks will receive an additional 5 weeks of unemployment benefits while they pursue a certification in a qualified training program. This morning we heard the president of the JCTC system come and he talked about what would be offered to these folks. And I got a listing here of that, and I just want to share with you the benefit that the people in this state will see from this provision. pursuing additional education or training doesn't always mean that we pursue a bachelor's degree. Years ago when I was young, it was a little longer ago, not as long as some in this body, the thought was the only option available to you was to go to college. And so it was either go to college or you didn't go to college. And you didn't hear much about trades or vocational school or getting certifications. I think we're paying a price for that now when we look around and we see that we don't have the number of people in various trades, like plumbers, those types of electricians. We got a real shortage of those in this country. But some of the certificate programs that may be completed by enrolling in these programs, and they fall within the 5-week time period. So this is not a situation where an individual would need a lot more time. They can satisfy that in the 5-week time. They can earn a commercial driver's license and go right to work. How many times do we drive down the highway? I drive I-64 every day, mostly interstate driving, to come to this chamber. How many trucks do you pass that will have signs on the back of the truck that say "Now Hiring"? That say "Now Hiring." An individual could receive the training they needed to get their commercial driver's license in that particular time. There are other programs there where students can earn certifications in line working. They have jobs waiting for them. The college system, community college, and that it has jobs waiting for those individuals as they leave. The president said today, and I thought this was very interesting, on the colleges located with across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, there is a college about 30 minutes away for every person in this state. But you know, we live in a day and age where things have changed. I was talking to someone the other day and I said, you know, what did we do before we had a cell phone that could text? That we could text with the cell phone. The cell phone doesn't text. So technology has changed, and as a result of that changing, we now have opportunities for folks to enroll on online courses. And we have invested so much in this state in broadband that the people and the folks in this state should be able to enroll in online programs and further their education. It was recently brought up to me when I was discussing this portion of the bill, the cost factor. I said, well, someone who's on receiving their unemployment benefits at the same time could be looking for another job but was interested in enrolling in one of these programs. What are we looking at in terms of that? Well, it was testified today, listen to this, folks, over 2/3 of the students enrolled in these programs, that's 68%, roughly 70%, pay $0 in tuition due to financial aid support. We live in a day and time where there's financial aid available for students all across the board in any type of programs. And only 14% of those students rely on student loans. So this is an opportunity that allows for students to enroll in that program and get these certifications. And I think it's important for us, on a side note, as a General Assembly, to look at how we can make these programs even more available to Kentuckians so that we can allow them to get that training, that certification, that education that can allow them to enter these badly needed areas where job opportunities are. I look at this portion of the bill and I think it creates a powerful opportunity for people in this state. You know, when people are working and they're providing for their families, they're paying a mortgage, they may have the opportunity to buy another car or do things, go on a vacation, it empowers people. People are benefited from that. And it should be our goal in this body to help people reach that goal. This is a great opportunity, and it helps Kentuckians and almost every single person that I've talked to. As a matter of fact, I don't know that anyone has had any objection to this particular part of the program. And I think it's a key component that helps our constituents and our neighbors across the state. Another provision of this bill is the work share program. That's been another popular one with folks. You know, that's half this bill. 50% of this bill is made up of the work share program. And that actually came as a recommendation from the Cabinet. Secretary Link, I asked the Cabinet for recommendations. I said, how can we make unemployment insurance better in this state? And the Cabinet came and they had this recommendation. And I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't very familiar with it at first. But I started to do the research and the reading and looked into what this provided. And I came away and I said, this could be an important tool for Kentucky in this area. 27 states have this. It helps Kentuckians in tough economic times, whether it's the individual worker or whether it's the business owner, because what it does, it allows for an individual, without being laid off or permanently let go or placed in a situation where suddenly they don't have a job, that employer can step in and give them part of their unemployment, and they have a certain number of hours that classify toward that, and then they would have a certain amount of time where they would actually work. And so the upside of that is it allows these employees who are in this situation to retain some of their employer benefits that they've been given, their health care, their retirement savings. Those are things that are still available to that individual through this work share program. This bill was a result of months of working and talking with individuals about what we add to it. It's the result of years of my looking into this issue, trying to see, how do we solve this issue? How do we begin to address it? This bill today doesn't solve the unemployment insurance problem in this state. It's far greater. It's a far greater issue. But this is an important first step, an important first step toward achieving that. Mr. Speaker, I would say if there are any questions, I'm assuming there will be, but at this time I would move for the passage of House Bill 4 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.